Hi folks, Jobin here. Today what I've got for you is a knife comparison video between the Spyderco Bryd Cara Cara 1 and Cara Cara 2. I've actually got talking points this time because this video took me a couple tries to get right, and I think I got through all right and then realized I left something important out. So hopefully this will keep me from doing that. Now, there's lots of reviews all over the internet, all over YouTube, of the Cara Cara in general, one model or the other. But what I was curious about myself a while ago was what they'd changed when they went from the Cara Cara 1 to the Cara Cara 2. So I got one of each to take a look. Now, as it happened, all I was able to find new was a Cara Cara 1 in FRN, and the Cara Cara 2, when I was looking, I could only find it in G10. Now, those are different handle materials, and you may have already noticed that the handles are very slightly different shapes. But this will serve as a good comparison because basically the FRN and G10 versions of the Cara Cara 1 have the same shape, and the FRN and G10 versions of the Cara Cara 2 have the same shape. So when we're talking about what changed from model to model, it doesn't matter in this case that they have different handle materials. The thing that is different between the handle materials, in case you're wondering, is, well, the FRN version is lighter, and you'll see some difference here when you look at the spines. The FRN version has nested stainless steel liners, which means they're recessed into the FRN slabs, and the G10 version has the straight steel liners that come all the way to the edge of the blade, and then the G10 scales bolted on over those. But now let's get into looking at what changed from model to model. The first and most obvious change is in the grind. The Cara Cara 1 has this saber grind, might actually be a very slightly hollow grind. Yeah, I think it is. And the Cara Cara 2 is full flat grind, which is much more Spyderco's sort of standard way of doing things. They do have a fair number of saber grind blades like this, but I'd say the majority of their models come with the full flat grind, and that's what they moved to with the Cara Cara 2. One of the things I really wondered about is what the thickness at the tip would be like. And what I found was kind of interesting. The Cara Cara 1 with its saber grind actually comes to a slightly thinner and more acute tip at the very, very end, maybe like the last quarter inch, probably less than half an inch. The Cara Cara 2 with its full flat grind, it tapers down, but it does so more smoothly and more consistently, and the last couple millimeters of the tip might actually be a little thicker than on the Cara Cara 1. It's really kind of 6 of one, half dozen of another. I was a little worried that actually the tip on the Cara Cara 2 would be thinner, and it really isn't. I think they're about the same in strength. Now, one of the things they changed that I don't necessarily really like is in the amount of belly or curvature on the blade. On the Cara Cara 1, it's a constant slight curvature over almost its entire length. Very, very slight. You see that? The Cara Cara 2, it's mostly straight, or probably more than half straight. Probably about here. It starts having slight curvature on it. It's not bad, it's alright, but I did kind of like the constant slight curve on the mostly straight blade of the Cara Cara 1. I thought that was a neat feature, not something you see all that often. Now, I mentioned a little bit more about the tip, and so for most of the knife, the thickness is the same, or the saber grind version is going to be a little thicker at the spine until you get out towards the very, very end. But another thing they did change was this sort of swoop here. In the Cara Cara 1, little hump up near the tip, then a little concave area, and then it swoops back up. This one has a blade shape, the Cara Cara 2, much more like the Tenacious or other traditional Spyderco models. Now, one of the most important changes is they changed the opening hole. If you'll notice, it actually got smaller, or at least less long, because you have this sort of bird's eye or comet shape. But it also, the tail of the comet got a little wider in the Cara Cara 2, or at least that's what it feels like to me. And that serves an important function, in my opinion. Because, let's see if I can bring my hand around to demonstrate this. When you press your thumb into the opening hole and rotate around, if you got your thumb pressed up like that, as you get to the forward part, your thumb slips forward, and it can get a little bit pinched as the comet hole narrows. And that happens significantly less to my thumbs with the Cara Cara 2. It was never a huge problem. It's not even something I'm sure I would have picked up on. Maybe not even to mention as a complaint if I was just looking at one or the other, but it happens less on the Cara Cara 2. A small improvement, or one that's fairly subtle, but I think it is a real improvement, something they really got right when they decided to tweak it. Now, moving on to the handle, overall, very, very similar. There's some slight changes in proportion that are almost hard to show except for a few points. And one is that overall, the handle on the Cara Cara 2 is slightly slimmer, particularly towards the front. In my opinion, that is a good thing. Because, like, if you want to choke up and do some detail work, in this one, at least with my hands, my thumb and index finger are fairly far apart. A little closer together on the two. It's a more comfortable grip when you're trying to get some detailed control. You don't have your hands like really far apart. It feels more nimble, a little less awkward, so I like that. Another thing that changed is they added another handle screw. Kids next door playing with a Nerf gun or something. Actually, it sounds more like a pellet gun. I don't know. Distracted me because their dad just started to yell at them about something. Yeah, there's another handle screw. See, Cara Cara 1, 2, 3, and the pivot screw. Cara Cara 2 has 3 back here. I guess they wanted a little additional strength. That's cool. And they did change the pocket clip a lot. And I think that was a major improvement too. I find the Cara Cara 2 clip a little easier. It's a little easier to pocket the knife, get it to slip onto the pocket smoothly, and it holds it very securely. Neither one of them was bad, but I think the 2 has a more attractive looking clip, and I think it works a little better. They also moved the lanyard hole. You see here, I got my little pigtail lanyards here. The Cara Cara 1, it was right at the butt of the knife, right at the very end of the handle. The Cara Cara 2, they moved it forward and a little more towards the spine. And I think that works as an advantage. It can be easily demonstrated with this type of lanyard where they can get swung around here so they block the knife when it closes. And obviously you don't want that. It'll eventually cut your lanyard. It just gets in the way. With it farther forward into the spine, it's quite a bit harder for that to happen. So, overall, I think when they went to the Cara Cara 2, they took a good thing and they improved it a little bit. Not a ton, but I think I really appreciate all the little changes they made. And, also worth noting, the knife got a tiny bit lighter, maybe like a 1/4 ounce lighter or so. I think that was probably mostly in the move from the saber ground to the full flat ground blade. They do tend to take a little bit less material and lighten up your knife a little bit. So like I was saying, the Cara Cara, it's a great knife no matter what version you have, but I think with the 2, they really took a good thing and made it a little bit better. And that's one of the reasons I like Spyderco, because they're always trying to do that. They're always tweaking their designs. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, found it interesting or informative, and you have a good day now.